So change is always going to happen, guys. Over time, you're going to change, hopefully for the better, right? Friends and partners will change, hopefully for the better. Industries are going to change, business models will change, governments will change, interest rates will change, laws and policies. You will see change as it is a guarantee. It's just how do you handle change as that change happens, right? So nothing stays constant, so those that understand this will adapt as change happens, and they always put themselves at the winner's table. So guys, I want to really talk about how to handle change in life and business, and we're going to relate obviously to the lawsuits and the settlement. So I was actually down in Miami when this information broke, and I'm going to give you the take of the individuals I was with as it happened live time, because they're some of the biggest names in the business. And it was actually interesting because I got to watch how they handled it and how they thought about it live time. And I'm going to share that behind the scenes kind of life situation that I watch happen. And it's something that we should all take into consideration when things do happen. So the first thing is, I'm gonna share my thoughts on the settlement, but first I want to share thoughts on business and life in general and how to really process things as time goes by, because business is short-term and long-term. And so I was thinking about this, and this is what I want to kind of get through. The longer you are in business, there's only one thing that will stay constant, and that will never change. And that is that there will always be constant change. So if you read that one more time, the longer you're in business, there's only one thing that will stay constant, never change, and that there will always be constant change. So there's always going to be things changing around us. Anytime things change around us that we don't have control around, that we don't have full control of, what happens when we don't have control? It creates uncertainty, creates fear, creates anxiety, creates all sorts of racing thoughts until we understand what's going on, which we'll talk about how to do that here in a second. So change is always going to happen, guys. Over time, you're going to change, hopefully for the better, right? Friends and partners will change, hopefully for the better. Industries are going to change, business models will change, governments will change, interest rates will change, laws and policies. You will see change as it is a guarantee. It's just how do you handle change as that change happens, right? So nothing stays constant, so those that understand this will adapt as change happens, and they always put themselves at the winner's table. So I've been in business for well over a decade, guys, and what I've actually learned is there's never good or bad. It is that I've learned that change is always good and bad. So this is something to really keep into consideration as we go through this and as you go through your life. Nothing is ever just one or the other. It's always both. And it really depends on our own belief systems and how we see things and how we adapt off things and what we see happening. So as the news broke, as you guys saw, all sorts of different opinions, very polarizing topic, which we're going to go into. But it really is how we look at it and how we decide to change how we operate and how we act off of information or change as it comes into our life. It is always about how you handle it and what you look for and decide to do after the change. So what we recently received is polarizing news. Now, by polarizing, it means there's both sides of the argument, right? This is good, this is bad, this is the end of the world, this is great opportunity. What is actually happening here? So how do you look at something that's polarizing? So you guys know that for years they've been following me or they've been in this group. What I always talk about is the law of polarity. Once I've fully understood this in my life, I've used this to benefit myself in multiple areas of my life in numerous ways, because what it means is we choose what we want to look at. So the law of polarity states that you cannot have one without the other. And if you have one, you must have the other, which is you have to have an up and down, left and right, day and night, inside, outside, fast and slow, hot and cold, positive, negative, blessing, curse, win, loss, fear and faith. Everything has an opposite to it. So that's why there's no such thing as good or bad. It is just what you look at. So the glass half empty, glass half full, right? So when something happens that's polarizing, the best thing to do is take a deep breath, slow things down, and ask yourself, where's the opportunity in this? Because there's definitely an opportunity. If there's a bad in something, there has to be a good. If there's a good in something, there has to be a bad. You just have to decide how to find it and what to look at and how to operate off of it. So when the news hit, guys, I was down there in Miami. I was literally sitting live time with Leo Perea. So if some of you guys know, Leo's the chief strategy officer here at EXP. He's actually the one that had to put his name on a 90,000 agent email with the first information that goes out to our entire company. So he's like the point of contact of who the whole world's waiting to see, at least within our company. And there's different Leos at different companies, right? So he was the number one KW agent in the world. For years, he was between number 1 and number 5 at the company. He's the chief strategy officer here at EXP. And I was also sitting there with Austin and Nate Chevron. Some of you guys know them. They were the number 1 production team at EXP at one point. They've been on and off between top 5 and 10 at the company. I'm actually probably going to bring Austin and Nate on here at some point. And so it was kind of interesting to see that something as polarizing as this and something as impactful as this happened and how they looked at it live time as I watched this go on. So here's how kind of Leo handled it. So he's basically chief strategy officer here at EXP. So right there, guys, you should have all received an email today, 2 hours from now. Or so by the time this call is over, there's gonna be 1 hour gap, and then he's gonna be doing a live meeting today. And there's some other meetings coming up here, guys, with some experts that have a lot better opinion on what's happening than I do. Leo's phone just started blowing up all of a sudden. He looks over at me and he's like, dude, they settled the lawsuit essentially, right? And I'm like, well, what's going on? And that's essentially what I asked him. Well, what's happening? What does this mean? And over the next 50 texts that blew his phone up, everybody just kept asking him essentially in some variation, what does this mean? And you literally started seeing lifetime real estate stocks start dropping lifetime, panic and fear, and everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And this is where you really have to understand how you have an emotional mind and a logical mind. We've talked about this numerous times. The emotional mind is a feeling mind. It thinks off a feeling. There's no fact data supporting this. It can't be proven. It's a thought. It's a feeling. And usually in the world we live in, we've been so conditioned from childhood age all the way up into now through grade school and college and all the way that we have media and everything. We're sold fear. We're sold negativity. We're seeing all this negativity out there. We think the worst most of the time, right? But what if there's a good in it? Now, the logical mind is let's slow things down. Let's think about this based off facts, data, numbers, historical record, things that can actually be proven in the third party court of law, right? And so the answer I kept seeing give everybody as this was happening lifetime was, I don't know yet. You're thinking someone at the top of the world is going to be like, here's what to do. Here's my answer on this right away. But what he's doing is he's saying, I need time. I need time to process the information, but I need to look it over and understand a little bit more before I respond. And this is important to understand that when things change, we don't just want to run out there and just like, oh my gosh, this is happening or that is happening and have a feeling about it. Some guys will hear your microphone on. I don't know who it is. But it was interesting because he kept saying, I need to take some time to research this before I come out with my final answer on it. And also, nobody really knew what was really the kind of verdict and what was really finalized with anything, right? So when you see someone at the top of the world, what are they doing? They're slowing down. They're thinking from their logical mind, not their emotional mind, and they're trying to find more data, which we'll talk about why. Now, how did Austin and Nate handle it? There's literally something like this. Like I look over and he's basically like, this is nuts. It's happening. This is nuts that this is happening. Everyone's freaking out. And Austin looked over to Nate. It was like literally, and it wasn't in like a, kind of like an insensitive way or anything like that because they knew everybody's freaking out. He literally just with like a normal calm face said, this is going to make us a lot of money. Literally the first thing he said was opportunity. He didn't think, oh my gosh, what's the problem? I didn't think, the world's ending. He literally was just like, and this is with nobody around, just the three of us. He's like, we're about to make a lot of money. And he meant it. So what does that mean? The first thing they went to was, how is this an opportunity? Not how is this a problem? And where did most people's mind go? Oh my gosh, how's this problem, right? Especially when they look at the headlines, trying to get YouTube videos and clicks and all that type of stuff. And so they were talking about how to capitalize on this almost word for word. So in lunch, they were talking about brainstorming ideas and looking for more information, trying to get more information as well. So what they all did was they sought out information. They didn't just pick up the phone and contact friends and start talking and sharing opinions based off of no fact behind it. It was, how do we find the best details that we can, the strongest facts? How do we have a sound mind about this? So at the same time, you see both sides of the polarized mindset. Some are freaking out. Some are saying this is an opportunity. It's very important to understand that. So we've talked about fear and faith before, not religious faith here, but the opposite of the polarity. One is that the future outcome is going to be positive. One is that the future outcome is going to be negative, right? And so fear is in the mind that we hold in our present thought process. We're thinking about it today of an expectation of what could happen tomorrow, but it's not actually happened yet. So how do we actually eliminate fear and how do we actually eliminate anxiety? And so if you're looking over on the left-hand side, that's the person that we give the analogy jumping off a cliff. What if there's rocks down there? What if it's 1 inch deep? What if they don't know what's beneath the water? What if there's a shark? They're not going to jump off because the fear of what is down there is too high. It's not going to push them past the moment of taking risks. So they don't know what's underneath the water. So what information needs to change to eliminate the fear? What information needs to come in to bring certainty? And on the other side, let's say that's, a guy wants to ask a girl out that he has a big crush on, and he doesn't know if she's going to say yes or not. And the fear is too high that he doesn't want to get embarrassed. At least while he never asks her out, he can hold the faith in his mind that at least she might say yes. But once he asks that question and she says no, then it's all over, right? So what would bring certainty into this moment? What eliminates the fear? Data and historical record. So up there at top, guys, what kills fear is data. What kills fear is fact. So anytime you have anything come into your life or change, find the facts, find the data, study the historical record, go back in the past to find patterns of the past that you can see will play out in the future. And so let's say the game warden comes over and says, actually, it's 100 feet deep and it's just open water. What does that mean? Sound fact, sound numbers, sound logic, sound historical record comes in. Someone that's been there before and that knows what's happening says, here's the facts. There's nothing underneath there. What does that mean? The risk is eliminated. The fear goes away. Now you can jump off at free will. Now you can do a double flip. What if you, in another situation with the girl, what if her best friend comes up and says, Susie actually has a crush on you too? What does that mean? Information came into the situation that eliminates the fear and eliminates the risk. And now you can go ask that girl out and have pretty good confidence she's going to say yes, right? So anytime you're fearful, guys, or anytime you have racing thoughts or anxiety, it's because you have an uncertain mindset. Certainty creates the elimination of fear. And you need to find the information, the data, and look for it and seek it out. not just sit there and sit idle and panic, right? Or talk to other people that are sitting idle and panicking. You have to seek out the right information, okay? So be careful with the messaging group. This is what I'd like to advise you on. So on one side, you have a panic group, and on one side, you have an opportunity group. And the information traveling around these two different groups of people could directly impact how you handle the situation going forward. So you need to ask yourself currently right now, which group are you in? Are you over here in the panic group where everybody's freaking out saying this is a big problem? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Or are you on the right-hand side? Are you in the opportunity group? Meaning people are saying, how do we capitalize on this? What is the change that I need to make right now before everybody else does to get systems in place, to get my strategy in place? How do I move forward and capitalize on this? Because these are the two groups. These are the two polarized groups that are happening right now. And then there's some that are transcending, bouncing back in between the two of each other. So who are you having your conversations with? Because I left that trip pretty optimistic, thinking, wow, this is a great opportunity, until I let some other panic groups get into my mindset. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe there's a problem. And I started talking to other people that are talking about this is an opportunity. And my mindset would bounce back and forth depending on who I'm talking to about the current situation. Now there's another group, which is the alone group. That's the one that sits there by themselves and doesn't talk to anybody, right? And that's when fear is at the highest. So what you really need to do is start talking and having conversations. I'll kind of give you an action plan here at the end.